It's Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown.
Back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards.
Big one in the Peach Bowl. This is a big one, too. And it's going to go all the way to the house on the first play from scrimmage.
Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. We are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, awesome presenting sponsor of the show. We are so glad to have them on board, driving the force here with all of their wonderful college football lines ahead of the Cincinnati Bearcats 2025 season kickoff, less than a month away from the matchup against Nebraska, which is currently still sitting at a 6.5-point betting spread in favor of the Cornhuskers. They're 6.5-point favorites, -115 odds to cover that 6.5-point line, -235 money line favorites on the board there, while you can put down $100 on the Bearcats and win 190 if they pull off the week 1 upset on August 28th, kickoff at 9 p.m. Eastern, with plenty of points expected out of that contest at a 51.5-point total. Over on FanDuel Sportsbook, we love FanDuel Sportsbook, our awesome presenting sponsor and getting us going on this week's opening show following Camp Higher Ground festivities. Neil Meyer and I got you covered with a recap of the week at Camp Higher Ground. But first, we got some news and notes to get to, and I'll stop yapping here shortly so we can get there. Bearcats completes the Hoops roster. Cincinnati Bearcats Hoops roster is complete with 15 players now in the fold. The football class of 2026 grew to 19 commitments, and we also had some interesting freaks show up on Bruce Feldman's annual list for the Athletica trio. Bearcats made that group. We'll discuss all that on this episode of Bearcat Blitz after these messages on the show presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Neil, plenty to touch on as we welcome in Neil Meyer of the frontofficenews.com. Check out their work there. You can check out my work at Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, where we are assessing a new talent joining the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball roster. International edition once again. They have added another international name to the fold. Jordi Rodriguez, former point guard of Club Joventut Badalona, coming over from Spain. Also played during a time with current Cincinnati Bearcats forward Baba Miller, both Spanish natives. Rodriguez was on loan as part of the Primera FEB League with CB Tizona this past season, averaged 9.5 points per game, 43% from outside, 2.9 rebounds and 1.9 assists. Also appeared in the U19 FIBA World Cup a few years ago, averaged 13.6 points there, 2.9 rebounds, and shot 40% from three at roughly, he's like a little over 6 feet tall, going to check in as like a combo guard type of player and going to slot into that versatile Cincinnati Bearcats lineup. Neil, Jordi Rodriguez joining the Cincinnati Bearcats men's basketball team and is the 15th and final member of the team.
Yeah, and it's a big time addition, Russ, too. Obviously, you look down at Wes Miller in this roster, they still had an open roster spot pending over the recent weeks, and it looks like they're heading back to the international pool to be the next member, right? So Jordi Rodriguez was reported to Cincinnati. I think we're still waiting some confirmation on that and what that might look like, but reported that he's going to come to Cincinnati, a 6'6" wing who averaged nearly 14 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, while shooting nearly 40% from behind the arc on nearly 5 attempts from 3. So could be a big-time scoring addition for Cincinnati, and those stats were from the U19 2023 World Cup. So he does bring the veteran kind of aspect this team has been looking for, right? We saw them go out in the transfer portal and kind of add experienced guys. He is 21 years old. He now has the opportunity to team back up with former teammate and Baba Miller. So overall, they dip into the international pool once again, and this could be a big time addition for Cincinnati. Depending on how this plays out, it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of role and what Wes Miller envisions for a guy like Jordy Rodriguez.
Yeah, Neil, and like there's a lot of mouths to feed on this 2025-26 Bearcats
A lot,
roster. A
a lot.
lot of mouths to feed, like a ton. Like, well,
I
let's just
think
break
this
it
is the
down right
fifth.
here for the people. We got Bryson Buckingham, Neil, and Grant Derbyshire. Those are the only guys that are really going to be not looking for playing time this coming season. Jalen Haynes on scholarship, TM on scholarship, DeZellet on scholarship, Baba Miller on scholarship, Jalen Celestine on scholarship. I mean, Day Thomas, Jizzle James, Keyshawn Tillery, Jordy Rodriguez, Tyler Montgomery, Tyler McKinley, Sean Abayev. Neil, 13 of the 15 rostered players are going to be looking for at least 10 plus minutes of playing time, and for their basketball futures and their basketball production.
Yeah, and it's worth noting too, Russ. You look down at this experienced, revamped Cincinnati roster. There's probably 6 to 8 guys who average 10 points at one time during their career
Right.
as well. So, I mean, there's only one ball, right? But there's a lot of scoring abilities on this team. And now you add a guy like Jordy Rodriguez to the mix. Cincinnati has its firepower, to say the least. Now it's just going to depend what kind of role everybody might be looking at. But overall, this is a very good thing if you're Cincinnati to have this deep of a roster who has this high of scoring ability, right? That's something Cincinnati lacked at times last season when things went rough. Now you have plenty of options, and it's huge going into year 3 in the Big 12 under Wes Miller.
The most talented baseline level of skill for a UC roster. Like we've been saying, every single year of the Wes Miller era, it keeps getting better and better talent wise, but the results continue to stay the same. A low seed in the conference tournament, an early exit in the conference tournament, and no NCAA tournament bid to speak of. All the Bearcats fans around the entire nation and internationally now, with how many international fans there are going to be tuning into Cincinnati games, looking for that to change wholeheartedly and swiftly. Once we get to that point where it can really start changing, Neil, is in mid-January. That's when we're really gonna, like we've been saying the last few months, gonna find out what this program is made of, because going 10-1 or 12-1 or whatever the record is really good in non-conference, it doesn't mean anything unless you can meet the moment in the dog days of Big 12 play, the toughest, if not the second toughest behind the SEC conference in the country to compete in. Get to the football class as well now, Neil, growing to 19 commitments after Cincinnati added an edge rusher to the fold in Keegan Horn, 3-star edge rusher, commits to Cincinnati Bearcats football. According to 24/7 Sports, Horn is ranked 1,617th nationally, 120th best edge rusher. It's the 4th defensive lineman to join the class of 2026, up to 19 commits, and ranked roughly right around 65th right now without Horn factored in on 24/7 Sports overall team rankings. With him factored in, I would imagine it gets him right near the 60th overall national range. And another kind of interesting talent added to the fold, Neil, for the 2026 class.
Yeah, absolutely. And Russ, the 2026 class continues to grow, right? We have seen Cincinnati add about 19 to 21 guys or so, roughly, in recent years, especially under Scott Satterfield in the high school ranks. But Keegan Horn makes number 19 for Cincinnati, and a 6'3", 225-pound defensive end is what they're kind of looking at for Cincinnati now. During high school, he has played defensive end and linebacker, so going to be kind of interesting to see what they might do. But it sounds like they're going to slot him in at defensive end. They're going to get him working with Coach Nico, put on a little bit of muscle, and see what we can do there. But overall, you've officially visited Cincinnati back at the beginning of June. And Russ, what happens yet again? The new IPF was on full display, and it's turning a lot of heads here, which will be actually in the IPF later today for fall camp. But overall, this is another addition for Cincinnati. Should boost them up a little bit more in the 247 rankings. So hopefully, still kind of garnering around that top 60 mark. But overall, it's another addition for Cincinnati, and it's going to be a big time one for Cincinnati in the near future as well.
Cincinnati has been building its strength football wise through the transfer portal under Scott Satterfield, and that's evidenced in the most recent release of the Freaks List from the Athletics, Bruce Feldman, his annual look at the top 100 athletes in college football. And Cincinnati had 3 players make the list, Neil, including a guy who obviously is not a transfer, homegrown through and through, starts us off here with Dante Corleone. And some of these numbers are crazy. 615-pound squat for Dante this summer, 585-pound sumo deadlift. He's up to 485-pound on the bench press, and he clocked it all in at a 1.71 second 10-yard split on the 40-yard dash, which would have been the 3rd fastest time among defensive tackles at the 2025 NFL Combine. Neil, Dante Corleone, it obviously goes without saying, it's kind of a shock that he hasn't been on this list every single year of his career, honestly.
Yeah,
3rd time
and
being on the Freaks list, I should add.
yeah, and coming in at number 14 on it too, but it's worth noting too, Russ, all 3 Bearcats make the top 50. But
Yeah.
Dante Corleone, we all know the strength and the power he has. I mean, we've seen it on full display. Russ, there was a play, I believe it was Thursday at camp, where he moved 2 defensive linemen and he swallowed up Evan Pryor in the backfield, and Scott Satterfield was like, "Yep, he's good. He's good." And I mean, I spoke to Joe Cotton about it. I was like, "Yeah, what was your first impression as an offensive lineman going against Dante Corleone?" He said, "Yeah, well, I walked by him and I was like, all right, he's not that big of a guy." And then he got out there on the field with him and he was like, "Oh, never mind, that guy's really good." So Dante Corleone, he's a freak. He's a freak, and that's the easiest thing to kind of describe him according to Bruce Feldman. And it's good to see him back fully healthy there as well uh, for the final season. But then you turn the page, Russ, too. You look at all the numbers Dante Corleone puts up. 485 pounds bench press, 615-pound squat, deadlift 585. That's the testament to Nico Palizzetti and this staff. You have heard them get a lot of praise as well. And then throughout this fall camp. And then Jeff Caldwell is a guy not many people knew of until recently. He comes in at number 29. We
Yep.
heard he could broad jump 11'9". He's 6'5", 215 pounds. So he is going to stand out very well. And I mean, at 6'5", when you have a 37-inch vertical as well, that's going to be a huge deep ball threat for Cincinnati on the outside. And then Jake Golday is another interesting guy who bursted onto the scene from the FCS level, was second on the team in tackles a season ago behind Jared Bartlett, despite kind of battling some injuries as well. But he's so versatile, and you can do so many different things with him. You can line him up on the edge, you can drop him in coverage. But he is an interesting name to keep an eye on. He broad jumped 10'7" as well, 36-inch vertical for him. And he told me he felt like he got stronger as well. And Scott Satterfield said that linebacker group is one of the quickest and fastest guys on the team. And it's kind of led by Jake Golday, who's clocked in at almost 23 miles an hour this offseason.
2nd best defensive player on the team, I would say, and a guy that can make himself a lot of money this fall with another kind of encore performance similar to the one he had in his first season at Cincinnati. Could be going from University of Central Arkansas to the NFL in a few short years. Would not shock me if Jake Golday is playing on Sundays very shortly. And it wouldn't shock me if Jett Caldwell is as well, despite not seeing anything from him at the Division I level. Neil, he's been making plays all camp. And as we mentioned, that broad jump is just crazy. His vertical jump, 36.5 inches. And he had an 11'9" broad jump this summer, which would have tied for the farthest any wide receiver has ever jumped in the history of the NFL Combine. A diamond in the rough, to say the least. Jeff Caldwell is a guy that didn't really get noticed until the late years in his high school career. And now Bearcats fans hopefully noticing him in the end zone very often over the course of the next few months. Get you some higher ground takeaways after the week away from campus for the Cincinnati Bearcats football team after these messages on Bearcat Blitz. Tying a bow on this episode of Bearcat Blitz. I'm your host, Russ Eltman from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, and he's my co-host, Neil Meyer of the frontofficenews.com. Subscribe to their work over at the Front Office News, where Neil was in Camp Higher Ground all week. I was able to check out 2 of the, 6 practices or 7 practices they've had total so far. And Neil, it seems like the overall gauge for me from the first week is back and forth. Both sides going back and forth. Defense sharpening the offense, our offense sharpening the defense. And Scott Satterfield mentioned that at the beginning of his address on Saturday, a couple days ago, talking to the media, just the fact that it's good to see both sides of the ball kind of alternating good days. You don't want to see one side dominate all of camp because that would mean you got probably a big issue on the other side or multiple big issues with one side of the football.
Yeah, and the biggest takeaway too, Russ, was obviously it's been a back and forth battle. On Friday, the defense won the day, and on Saturday, the offense won the day. And the offense was clicking on all cylinders on Saturday, Russ. And I mean, at one point, it just felt like every other play, the offense was in the end zone, and Brendan Sorsby was moving the ball around with ease, and he
Red
was
zone was cooking. It was
red
nice.
zone red zone offense was cooking. He was getting everybody involved. Noah Jennings had a big day. Joe Royer, Jeff Caldwell, Caleb Goody, Cyrus Allen. They all were in the mix on Saturday. So it's good to see that the offense is building that chemistry. But overall, Russ, it's been a back and forth battle, right? Defense has come away with multiple takeaways this past week as well. So that's been the emphasis. But right now it's been a back and forth battle, and I think things are starting to trend in the right direction for this Cincinnati team heading into now week 2 of fall camp here at the newly renovated indoor practice facility.
Right. This will be the media. I think the media's first look at a practice inside the IPF, which is what'll all be going on throughout this week. I can't make it to any other practices the rest of fall camp because of them all being in the mornings and then the one weekend practice. I'm at a wedding, so we will be out of commission there. But good thing Neil will be at almost all of those over the next couple of weeks, giving us reports and keeping us tuned in here on Bearcat Blitz. What about you, Neil? What is there anything else that you'd like to touch on? Anything else stick out from the opening week at Camp Higher Ground before we say goodbye?
Special teams has really stuck out. Steven Rusnak,
Steven Rusnak is dialed in, man. He
he
is
is
dialed
locked
in.
in. I think I've seen him miss maybe one field goal all camp, and he just hooked it left.
Yeah.
But
He
ever
hit
since
a
then, I think
52-yarder to end
52
practice on
yarder to
Saturday.
end practice on Saturday. And Russ, since Tuesday, when that miss occurred, I had him tracked at 18 for 18 since Tuesday during team periods and whatnot. So that's a very, very good sign if
So
you're
many of these
Cincinnati.
little things rowing in the right direction for UC football. I mean, even the freaks list, Neil. I don't think UC's had 3 players on the freaks list in any of the time you and I have been covering the team together.
The 2021 playoff team had 7.
There you go. But I wasn't covering the team when that freaks list
Yeah.
came out. So
Yeah, the
like they're like
2021
in the
playoff
Scott
team had
Satterfield
7.
era over the past 4 years, 3 is the most they've ever had by far.
Yeah, last year they just had 2. I believe it was Dante and Jake. So you get 3 on it this year, especially now being in the top 50. That's huge. And for Dante to be up there at in the top 15, despite coming off everything he came off of last year, is also very cool to see.
A lot to be excited about when it comes to Cincinnati Bearcats football. Back on campus and ready to keep building up each side of the football, and that often forgotten but very important special teams unit coming together as well under new coordinator Luke Pascal. Neil Meyer will be there to check it all out, and we'll hear from him later on in the week. We'll be back with more Bearcats news, notes, and action on Thursday to take you into the weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. This has been Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, and a great option right now to go check out the future odds for the Cincinnati Bearcats football team. A very long number right now when it comes to the Big 12 championship odds. Cincinnati sitting at 27-1 as we record this episode. One of kind of in the middle of the pack of the overall odds. The leading odds for the Big 12 right now are going to Texas Tech and Kansas State, both sitting at plus 550 to win the Big 12 championship game. Check out FanDuel Sportsbook for all your favorite college football bets, and we'll be back later on this week on the Believe Network.